Hi guys, welcome back to the workshop. My name's Dom, I'm the Chief Tech. So today we're going to be working on a Sega Game Gear that needs new capacitors and a bit of TLC. I got this from eBay and I hope that it will be running nicely afterwards. I don't even know if it works right now actually. Probably something I should be checking. But before that, as usual, grab yourself a coffee and I'll see you on the flip side. Just a quick disclaimer guys, I take no responsibility of you taking apart the Game Gear and potentially breaking it. This is your choice at the end of the day. You can take my advice, don't take my advice. It's up to you, I'm not professional. So yeah, back to the video. Okay, first things first, let's see if it actually works. So this takes 6 AA batteries. Bit crunchy in there. I can see there's a bit of a okay, Sonic, moment of truth. No power, no nothing. So, what I can see straight off, without even doing any taking apart or anything like that, and these batteries are good, they're brand new from the packet, so there's a lot of dirt and debris and corrosion built up around the contacts here. Okay, so you might be able to see that a bit better now, but there's a lot of corrosion on them contacts, so I'm going to give them a quick clean. And we're going to see if we can bring some life into this to see if it actually works. If not, I'm going to have to take it apart and see what's going on inside. Okay, so good old isopropyl alcohol for this. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Phillips head screws and one 4.5 game bit on the top. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a bit, but if you can see, there's so much corrosion all around this part of the board. So no wonder it's not working. I'll show you now. Okay, so all in this part here, there's a lot of corrosion, maybe even water damage. It's all blue on the board here. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do a bit of work, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna break this down further so I can break it down into the 3 boards and give it all a nice clean. Just so you guys know, this is a fluorescent tube, so be very careful of taking this apart and make sure you don't damage that tube. Okay, so first things first, let's separate these two by disconnecting these wires. Okay, I was going to take off the RF shield from this. Being very careful not to bend this, it's very, very thin metal. Right, next we're going to take out the soundboard and the power board. Okay, so this is the soundboard. Okay, I've set my meter up to ohms test, or resistance test. What are we getting? Okay. A little plastic tab looking thing here, holding in the speaker. Now I can get the speaker out and give this shell a nice clean. So the speaker, it's going to need a bit of a clean. That diaphragm doesn't look very good. Any dirt on these speakers and you have less sound. Okay, I'm very carefully going to clean this speaker. Any damage to the diaphragm and it won't work. So. Right, so I've got one front shell, the glass, put them together. Let's take apart the back of it, and I'm in two minds with this because these connections here, I think they're soldered on. I need to give this case a nice clean. So how much of a blasphemy would it be to have the contacts not taken out? Do you know what? Tell me in the comments below. Okay, I'm being very careful now because this screen isn't actually attached properly without the screws in the actual back plate. So I'm going to give these a quick clean with some isopropyl alcohol and then go from there. Then put it all back in the case and then start soldering. Let's get the case ready. So I've taken the liberty of cleaning it all out. The hot soapy water, I'm just going to get all these sticky bits out, put some new tape on, get the glass screen protector on, and put the main board in and go from there. Okay, so I've cleaned all the sticky crap off it now, which took forever. Okay, so now I'm going to put some sticky tape on here, which is double-sided tape I use. Not sure if you can see that. That's the stuff I use. It's mostly for computer screens, but it does the job. Okay, so replacing the capacitors. Okay, so I bought a pack from eBay, which comes roughly like this. It came with another packet for, I think, the power board. So what you need to make sure you're getting correct is in each packet, you're not just putting any capacitor anywhere because you'll just fry the board. You need to make sure you're getting three things correctly. Three things in correctly. So you've got your polarity to begin with. So make sure that the capacitor is going the right way. So negative to negative, positive to positive. Second of all, you need to make sure your microfarads are correct, and then voltage as well. So make sure you got the right value capacitor for the right area of the board. Okay, so these capacitors here, you can see that there's a grey stripe and a black stripe. Luckily these ones say minus and plus on them, but most capacitors have a line going down on a grey line, same colour as that there, and that denotes the negative side of the board. So you need to make sure you get the polarity correct. If you notice, there's also numbers on the capacitors themselves. So one's voltage and one's microfarads. Make sure you match up those numbers. Okay, so I'm going to start with replacing each capacitor one by one. I'm going to start from these two, work my way around the board. I'm making sure that I'm doing the correct polarity, the correct microfarads and correct voltage. They're written on the capacitors themselves and also on the packet, so make sure you get that right. I suggest going one at a time. Okay, so I'm going to start with this capacitor here, which is 68 microfarads and 6.3 volts. So let's just get that up. So using these tweezers, I'm going to grab it from each side, give it a wiggle, so they're glued on slightly, then bring it up, bend it upwards, making sure you only do one at a time because you'll end up breaking something and you don't know what voltage and microfarads each one is, unless you write it down, which kudos to you if you've got that much time, but I'm going to do it one by one. So I'm going to give it a little rock until I basically break the capacitor off, being careful not to break the traces underneath. I'm breaking the capacitor, not the legs off the board. So now I'm going to take my little packet with one of these lovely little capacitors in, get that ready. What we do first is I've heated up the soldering iron and I'm going to quickly clean and get some fresh solder on them pads. Okay, so let's get some flux on here now. Try this new pen that I've got. Alright, there we go. Let's see if I can get these legs off without damaging anything. Alright, that's how it's done. Both legs are off. Some fresh solder on the pads. Nice. Okay, so let's get our 68 and 6.3 volts capacitor out of the packet now and get it cut to size because they're not surface mounted ones. Are these surface mounted ones? I would say these are surface mounted ones, but the ones I'm going to put on are just quite generic looking and they might be a little bit bigger in places as well, so we just need to make sure that we're doubly careful. Right, so that's the correct way, making sure the polarity. Luckily the polarity is on here as a plus as well on the board. You can't see it from where you are, but yeah. Another tip as well is, if you're new to this sort of stuff, is the longer leg is positive. Okay, so let's get this in place. So what I'm going to do is bend the legs backwards on themselves, go from there. So can I do this with this pair of tweezers, or I'm going to have something stronger? Alright, so let's do this. Might need helping hands just to tin these. Right. Tin these legs. You can't quite see on the screen, but I'm going to just quickly tin these. Get some more flux onto these pads. Right, let's make sure these are solid. So what I'm going to do is put my finger down, so when I solder I can just give it a little push down. Make sure it's flush with the board. Looks good so far. Okay, so that's two of them replaced, right value of microfarads and voltage and the correct polarity. Right, I'm just going to quickly jump on and do the rest of them. You get the idea now. I'll show you the end product afterwards. Okay, so I'm moving on to the soundboard and the power board. I'm going to do the soundboard first. Okay, same sort of deal here with the capacitors. Make sure you got the three things right: polarity, voltage and microfarads. Make sure they're all correct. But these ones are surface mounted. So what I mean by that is you can't actually see the legs on any of these because they're mounted to the surface. What I'm going to do is use a pair of pliers and gently rock these back and forth until I break them. Then I'll solder new ones on. What I'm finding really difficult at the moment is the capacitors are huge compared to these ones. So what I'm finding is getting them positioned correctly so the case can go on is very difficult. Okay, so we're going to go for the 100 6.3 volts. Give it a little wiggle with this, being very gentle because you don't want to destroy the pads that it's on, or the traces. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, I've ripped it off, but which side's negative? Well, you can denote that from the grey stripe. So that grey stripe there means negative. So what I've done is curl around the capacitor legs, so they're at the bottom. I've also used some heat shrink to make sure I don't contact anything else, so I can fit in roughly the same sort of space. Next, I'm going to be taking this one off. Okay, so here's the end result. What I'm going to do with this one that's poking upwards is when I got the screw in, I can bend it over the screw. It means that it's harder to take out next time, but I don't see any other way of getting that to be flush without doing that. Okay, so onto the power board. These capacitors go through the board. There's no need to pry anything up. Just need a bit of solder wick and go from there. Or solder braid, sorry. Okay, so to take these ones out is a little bit different. The best way to do it would have been use a solder sucker on this side, but I don't have one. And yeah, so I've already replaced one. Looks pretty good. I'm going to try and get another one out without embarrassing myself now. So on this diagram they give you, the label which one's which. So I just replaced C13, which was what, 820 microfarads and 6.3 volts. So you follow this diagram and then corresponding components to the right places. So I'm going to go for C11 now. Just take these small legs out first. And use my helping hands to hold it while I heat up the area and then wiggle and mess about and wiggle just to get this small little component off. That's one leg out. Cool. I think that's both of them out. Yeah, nice. So all I did was lean on one side of the component while soldering the right leg, and then it will come out. Pain in the arse though. Okay, so C11 is 100 microfarads, 25 volts. So now I've got my 100 microfarads and 25 volt capacitor. See if I can make this a bit more visible. Right, so positive and negative, get them as straight as possible. And what I'm going to do is basically heat up the area around the back, then push it through. See if I can use some solder wick just to get rid of some of this old solder. Right, that should make things a lot easier. So positive, negative. Yep, there we go, a lot easier. Okay, so I've bent the legs slightly. Add some solder and then cut the tips. Right, using flush cutters to make sure that's nice and neat. Next, onto the next capacitor. So that's the last one left, which is C5. Okay, so let's get this all back together. So power board. Make sure you give it back its little hat for its, actually I didn't clean this. Let's give this a quick clean. Right, so moment of truth time. Let's see if I've got all the capacitors in some sort of... Oh, I really hope the speaker works now, because one of these metal pins was inside the speaker hole. Hope that works. Right, let's see if this goes together nicely now. Right, let's get some screws into this and we'll see what happens. Right, let's just see if it turns on. A little bit nervous now. Ooh. It lights up. Okay, so, okay, what do we try first? Clearly has to be Sonic, come on. Now, will this work? It's red. Oh, it works. Okay, so here it is. One massive disappointment is the sound doesn't work. And I have a dirty suspicion that this little piece of wire has pierced the diaphragm. But it works. Thanks for watching, guys. You know what? There's going to be a part 2 to this. I've got a speaker, a few more components for the soundboard coming, and once they do, I'm going to make a second part of this where we can finally get that Sega moment. And you know what? I'm really looking forward to it. So like, comment and subscribe and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you on the flip side. So yeah, see you soon. Bye.